Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to another day. Okay, so I really hoped you guys liked those videos. They were quite funny. Miss Trosclair had sent one of Miss Battle, Miss Cheryl, Miss Cortez, Miss Trosclair, and Miss Bowden to me. And they were so funny. I asked her if I could give her your pictures and she could turn it into the videos. And so I went through my phone. I found pictures of us from Mardi Gras or the garden or Christmas that I had. And luckily I had a picture of every single one of you that we were able to put it together and send it to you guys. I thought you guys would love it and could use a little funny. But today we are going to be learning about the asteroid belt and starting our outer planets. So far we learned about all the inner planets, which were all of the rocky planets. And so we started with our first planet is Mercury, second planet is Venus, third is Earth, fourth is Mars. Yeah, so those 4 planets go in order, and then after Mars comes this big belt that they call the asteroid belt, and it's full of different asteroids, which are made up of rock and ice, and they're just floating around in space in that area. And in that area, it separates those inner planets, those rocky planets, from our big gas giant outer planets, which we're going to be learning about. And those asteroids, they're actually spaced super far apart. Because like when Miss Bowden thinks of the asteroid belts, I think of lots of rocks floating next to each other, spinning really fast around and around. And guess what? That's not the case. It's actually, they're actually spaced super far apart, which allows all of our spacecrafts to go through and not get hit. But in the asteroid belt, though, besides just the asteroids and rocks and dust and different ice, like frozen ice, they also have some dwarf planets. One of the dwarf planets is Ceres, and that is located inside the asteroid belt that helps orbit around. So the asteroid belt's pretty cool. The sizes of everything in there, they range from super small particles of dust to they have about, maybe, I think I've read that it was over 100, maybe 200 objects that were bigger than 100 kilometers. So they have some pretty big ones out there. I mean, we have the dwarf planet, which is going to be one of your biggest ones that's out there, but nothing's going to be bigger than Earth or a planet, because then it would be an actual planet. So, but they have some big pieces that float, but they're not next to each other. They're spaced super far apart. But the asteroid belt, though, is just floating around, separating our inner and our outer planets from each other. And yeah, it's just full of basically space and space rocks and dust and frozen particles and a dwarf planet called Ceres. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, you would travel from Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and then you would hit that asteroid belt. And then as soon as we get to the other side of the asteroid belt, we have our first big gas giant. And that is our 5th planet from the sun, which is our biggest planet in the entire solar system. It's so big that it could actually fit all of the planets inside of it. Yeah, over 1,300 Earths could fill the inside of this planet. It's super heavy. It's super big. It is Jupiter. Jupiter is our 5th planet from the sun. So Jupiter, they call all the outer planets, they call gas giants, because like our inner planets, they're all made of rock and hard material that you could walk on. Well, all the outer planets are made up of gases that you can't walk on because the whole planet is full of gas. And sometimes the closer that you get inside of it, it's so packed and the pressure's so tight that nothing would be able to survive, not even a spacecraft. It would get crushed. So Jupiter is really cool, and it starts our big gas planets in the outer part of our space. So Jupiter is the largest planet in space, and guess what? Miss Bowden didn't even know this until today. Jupiter has got rings around it, but they're so full of dust particles that you can't see it. So none of it's made of rock. Doesn't look like our next planet's rings, but in certain photos, thanks to one of those spacecrafts that have gone and orbited Jupiter, to study about it, it realized that there are rings around the planet and they're just made of dust particles. Yeah, pretty cool. I had no idea Jupiter had rings around it. But in most pictures, you can't see it. Because Jupiter is so big, you can see it from Earth in the night sky. It is the third brightest object in the sky. Besides our moon, which is super bright, Venus is the next brightest object, and then Jupiter is our third brightest object. So again, look for that app that tells you about the night sky so you can look up and you can see our planet Jupiter. It's really, really cool. So Jupiter is this massive planet, and it spins really fast. And so what Miss Bowden heard is that it's so big that when it was made, if it had continued growing, it could have been a star because it's almost that big. And but it stopped growing, so it's a planet. They do have a core in the middle of it, just like all the planets, but it's super hot. It's even hotter than the sun, and it's about the size of Earth. So it's a tiny core relative to the big size, but it pulls in lots of gravity, and you would weigh almost 2.5 times heavier on Jupiter. Yeah, so you would weigh super duper heavy on Jupiter because there's so much gravity pulling it from such a big planet. And Jupiter, guess what? It's got storms on it. Yeah, it's got the biggest storm out of the entire solar system. It is called the biggest hurricane. Yeah, you know how we have hurricanes down here in South Louisiana, and sometimes they come and it's lots of wind and rain. Well, on Jupiter, they have a big storm called a hurricane, and it is that big red dot on Jupiter. And that storm has not died down yet. It has been lasting for over 300 years. Could you imagine living in a place where it stormed every day for 300 years? No, that would be miserable, but those storms are so violent and so massive and rough that I don't know if anything could survive any spacecrafts could survive going down in there to try to study it. So a lot of the spacecrafts, they orbit Jupiter and take pictures so they can find out more about the planets. They have a Netflix series called The Universe on Netflix, and it talks about each of the different planets. And so Miss Bowden was watching one last night on our next planet, and I learned a lot of really cool information that I never learned before. So you're constantly learning about these things through all of our technology that keeps advancing and all the science. It's really cool. Science is such a great thing, guys. Anyway, back to Jupiter. So let's talk about Jupiter's rotation. Guess how long a day is in Jupiter? A day on Jupiter is only 10 hours. 10 hours. That's it. So our day is more than twice as long as Jupiter's. So if right now, what time is it? It's 12:37. At 12:37 tonight when we're all sleeping, from here to then, one entire day has already passed. Crazy, because it hasn't even been one entire day on Earth. It's insane. It blows my mind. So it spins super duper fast. And what I learned was that it's so big and it's shaped like a sphere. It spins super fast, but guess what? In the middle of it, it kind of bulges out. So it's really not a perfect sphere. It just bulges out in the center because it's spinning so fast that it can't control that gravity to continue to put it into that perfect sphere. Pretty interesting. Okay, here's another cool thing. So we take 24 hours to go in one day. Jupiter takes 10 because it spins so fast. Guess how long it takes to go around the entire sun. We take 1 year, 365 days. Guess how long Jupiter is? 11.8 Earth years. Not even 11. It's actually almost close to 12 years. So would you even be a year old on Jupiter? You would be a half of a year, or a little older than half of a year. Yeah. So not until you're almost 12 will you have turned 1 year old on Jupiter. So because we keep getting further and further from the sun, it takes the planets longer and longer to go around because that orbit gets bigger and bigger. And so the closer we are, the smaller it is. The further away we go, the bigger and longer it takes for the planet to travel around the sun. All right. So Earth had 1 moon. Mars had 2 moons. Guess how many Jupiter's got? 79 confirmed moons. 79! Crazy. And guess what? One of their moons is bigger than the planet Mercury, or just as big as the planet Mercury. That one's called Ganymede. Yeah, it's really big, that moon. I mean, because you consider Mercury as a planet. So we kind of question, well, why isn't Ganymede a planet? That's a good question to research, because if it's about the same size as one of our planets, it's crazy. What makes it a moon compared to a planet? That's a good research question to go and look up and see and wonder about. Yeah, you see how all these questions come into your head when you think about things and you learn about things? That's the joy of learning, really. Yeah. Okay. There's been so many different spacecraft that has passed through Jupiter. I know I read about one in 1979 that had gone there and studied. I think that's when they found out Jupiter had rings. Guess who was the first astronomer to really study the planet Jupiter? Galileo Galilei. He was a brilliant scientist who studied lots of planets. He was studying the science astronomy. And so he was studying the planets and making observations about them. And then it continued on with other astronomers until today we have so many different space programs that are getting more advanced that we can have more information about this planet hopefully soon. I know they had launched in 2011 the 9th spacecraft to go to Jupiter, and it arrived in orbit in 2016. So they should have more updated information about the planet, which is really cool. Jupiter, I'm going to show you some pictures of Jupiter. Look at this big gas giant. You see all the different clouds rotating around it. Yeah, let's see if we can get that big spot. Let's see. Here's some cool images. Look, there's one of the moons right there on Jupiter. Look how pretty it is. You see all the different layers of gases that keep twirling around the planet. Lots of hydrogen and helium it's made of, those gases. Let's see. Oh, look at that. Okay. There's a spot right there. I see the hurricane. You know what that is? That is a shadow from one of the moons. Europa. It's the moon Europa. It's another large moon on Jupiter. There it is. There's that big red spot. The biggest hurricane in the entire solar system. The most dangerous storm out there that has been lasting for over 300 years. Absolutely crazy. Well, Miss Boda's going to post a really cool video for you guys to watch and learn more about Jupiter. I hope you enjoyed the asteroid belt. Don't forget about that. That separates our inner and our outer planets, those rocky planets from the gas giants. And we just started our first gas giant today, the 5th planet from the sun, the largest planet out of all the planets. And tomorrow on our Zoom, we're going to learn about our 6th planet, Saturn. So I can't wait to see you guys and actually teach you guys in person on a computer. I'm going to videotape myself teaching it, so in case you can't get onto the Zoom, you can go ahead and rewatch that video to see all the cool facts about it. All right, guys, get ready for math.